Hello, everyone. Welcome to Where Are All the Women? We are late, as probably always, but we're here. How are you, Mary Lou?
I'm good. I want to point out that I'm never late.
No, it's me. So I'm sorry. I shouldn't have implicated you.
I just wanted to let our fans know that I'm always here at 7 waiting it up.
I'm always like trying to get my eyeliner even.
Yeah,
because I underestimate my time management problems are usually just like an inability to properly estimate how long things will take me. Like, I think I'm very, very optimistic, I think is what my problem is. I'm sure you've noticed that's my problem. Too
It's
optimistic.
Really funny. I like your explanation of it and how it shows some insight.
Like, because it's like, I think I'm like, technically all I have to do is this, but then I don't account for like my eyeliner is not even and I need to fix it, or like I forget to let Adelita out to pee, or like if anything weird is happening in the setup, which often it is.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just reminding me, your answer is reminding me of when I wrecked the car when I was a teenager, and I told my dad that I had underestimated braking time, and he didn't appreciate the response, even though it was true. That's exactly what happened.
Right. I mean, you thought that the car would brake faster than it did.
Yeah, I was a new driver. I thought I did. I underestimated braking time, and that's why I wrecked the car. So that's far more serious than being 5 minutes late for the podcast. So for the stream.
How badly was the car wrecked?
Not too badly. Probably, I mean, I was a teenager and I wasn't the one paying for it, so it didn't seem too bad to me. But my parents were mad, and I wasn't harmed.
That's good. That's the most important thing. I didn't start driving until I was 37. I think partly because I found driving really, really scary. Like the idea of driving I grew up in Vancouver, so I found that I was like, how do you do a left turn ever?
Right.
And at the same time, there was never really a need to drive because everywhere I went, I could just like walk to or bus to or cab to. And then it seemed totally unaffordable because I was like, what am I going to learn how to drive on? And then what will I drive once I can? Like, it just never made any sense. But I mean, and in retrospect, I mean, I love driving, and I find it super liberating, and like it contributes to your independence so much. So obviously I'm so glad that I can drive now, but at the same time, in some ways, I'm sort of, I guess, glad that I didn't drive when I was younger because I might have done stupid things.
Yeah, of course you would have. You're young. Totally.
Yeah. Anyway, I welcome everyone. Welcome to our phone call. Thank you for tuning in. If you have not and you are watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe to support the channel. And if you're on YouTube, you can also join the live chat. If you want us to pay attention to and respond to your questions, you can use the super chat. I know that probably you don't care, and probably a lot of people watching don't care, but there was an election in BC on the weekend. And, Canadian politics are quite dull. I'm not going to pretend that that's not true. There's usually nothing very interesting that's happening in Canadian politics, but as a result of everything that's happened over the past 4 years, Canadian politics have become interesting. And so finally, I always feel like Canada is so slow on the uptake. So like finally there's a debate a bit that's happening around gender identity ideology and SOGI, which is the what's called sexual orientation and gender identity curriculum that's in elementary schools and high schools to teach kids that they might be born in the wrong body. And And then, of course, all the convoy stuff and the pandemic stuff and the authoritarianism and the crackdown on free speech and the overtaking of all of the institutions with woke and DEI and of course, again, all the gender identity stuff. And, it's the same thing sort of that's been happening in the US is also happening on a smaller scale in BC, which I find interesting, which is that there's a really obvious urban-rural divide and a class divide. So like, all of not all, but a lot of rural people, so people who are not living in like Vancouver, Victoria, Nanaimo, Kelowna, which are cities in BC, those people all voted for the Conservative Party of British Columbia, which is different than the federal Conservative Party, but, very similar in terms of their platforms and appealing to the same kinds of people. It's essentially the like anti-Trudeau people, the anti-NDP people, the people who think that the progressive parties have become elitist and are not paying attention, not only not paying attention to their concerns, but constantly insulting them, constantly calling them conspiracy theorists and bigots and extremists. And it's like, there's only so long that you can coast on that when all of it's not just the progressives in Vancouver, but it's the parties that are purporting to represent you. Like, I mean, I've talked about this many times on Twitter, but my own premier, the premier of BC, Dave Eby, blocked me on Twitter 2 years ago because he was like, trans women are women. And I responded and said, prove it. I didn't say anything else. And they blocked me. And he's very liberal with the block button, I learned after that. I was like pretty shocked I was like, what? Like, you can't block me. You're my premier. Like, what are you doing? Like, he's so entitled. It was just, and so, and it's that party, it's the NDP, and the NDP has I think won the BC elections 3 years in a row. It's always gone back and forth between, or not always, but since the 90s, gone back and forth between the Liberal Party and the NDP. The Conservative Party has never been a major power in BC, not since like the 80s. And so, the fact that, and I think they think they're a shoo-in, right? And they think that everybody who is opposing them or criticizing them are crazy people, and they say so out loud. And so what happened this election is that the Conservative Party came along and started speaking to those people, which was a very wise choice.
Who won?
So nobody's won yet. They still don't know who won the election because the NDP and the Conservative Party got almost the exact same number of votes. Which is pretty crazy. Like, I thought the Conservative Party would do well, but honestly, and I voted Conservative, I didn't think the Conservative Party would win just because it always goes to the NDP. And I just thought, and like, there's more ridings in Vancouver than there are on the North Island. You know what I mean? So
that means that there are a lot of people in the city who are disgruntled and voting Conservative, right? That there has to be a large percentage there just to come that close population.
Yeah, I mean, people are mad about the problem of addiction and the harm reduction model. So say, again, similar to what's happening in San Francisco and Seattle and New York, which is that they decided that the solution to addiction would be to hand out free drugs and then just leave everybody out on the streets, right? Yeah. And that's gotten worse and worse. It got exponentially worse over COVID. The fentanyl factor people are overdosing all the time. Drug overdoses blew up during COVID. That hasn't stopped. And so, of course, that impacts crime, and people don't feel safe in their residential areas, certainly not downtown. And, you know, when the NDP goes on and on about climate change hysteria and the carbon tax and all these things that just like regular people are like, you're not even talking about a real thing. You know, we can't afford to buy groceries. It's so expensive. You know, I'm like still recovering from being in BC for 2 months because of how expensive food is there. It's like, this is insane. It's completely unaffordable. I don't even know how people are doing it.
And are they lying to your face like they are here with the Democrats take to the airwaves and tell us that it's misinformation that prices are increasing. It's disinformation that groceries cost more now. That's actually not happening. There is no inflation. The economy is great. Is that happening in Canada too?
That's terrible. What I've heard from them is more that the cost of groceries is the fault of the greedy grocery stores. Like, it's like corporate greed, because it's the NDP. So the NDP is supposed to be a leftist party and a socialist party and a workers' party. I mean, they took the word, they used to actually have the word socialist in their platform, but they took it out. I don't know, maybe 6 or so years ago. I was pretty angry about that.
At the time.
At the time.
Now
so maybe it was a little over 6 years ago.
Completely watch. Like, I was such a huge Hugo Chavez fan, and I'm like, what the hell? That didn't work well. And Cuba is completely collapsing. The whole island of Cuba hasn't had power in days. Their grid has completely collapsed. There's no food. Yeah, socialism is not looking as shiny as it did to me in my youth.
I didn't know about what was happening in Cuba.
Cuba is really a mess right now. They haven't updated their electrical grid in over 50 years, and they've had storm after storm coming through, but mostly their infrastructure is collapsing. They've had enormous food and medicine shortages for years now. There have been horrific shortages of food and medicine. I was talking to a friend who goes there fairly frequently. She's extended family in Cuba, and the grocery stores are all owned by the government. It is illegal to criticize the government. So you can't criticize the grocery store, and that it's illegal to say there's no food in the grocery store. But she said you'll walk in and they've just put one bottle of ketchup every 3 feet on the shelves. So the shelves are full of food. So you are speaking disinformation if you say there's no food on the shelves and there's no food in the store.
Wow.
Yeah, it's bad.
Okay. That's interesting, because I wonder if the reason why the NDP keep insisting that it's the fault of the greedy corporations and these greedy grocery companies, and they're charging too much for food because they're greedy, and it's not the fault of inflation, which was caused by all the money that they threw out during COVID. You know, they handed out millions and millions and millions of dollars during COVID to pay for people to stay home, among, you know, and I don't know what, masks, vaccines, what else. But like, you know, to build all those plastic barriers at the grocery store and at
much
the
stupid
pool
money.
and stuff like that. I don't know.
The pool. Think how many lives were saved. Right. All the circles to put on the floor, they printed those all out.
Yeah, they had to pay for all those circles and arrows around the grocery store.
Right. And like you said, they just printed money. They printed money and printed money and handed it to people. And anyone with any basic understanding of economics knew that would result in hyperinflation, which now we're experiencing.
Like, that we were going to have to pay it back. You know, they had to pay all people to come around to all of our houses to check and make sure that we were home when we were supposed to be quarantining.
That's what's important. Yeah,
there's lots of new jobs that came out of COVID for like government workers, I suppose. So more people being paid by our taxes, and now we're paying that all back tenfold. But I wonder if they're blaming the corporate greed thing is a lead up to the government then owning the grocery store. Like, we have to take care of this so that your groceries don't cost too much because these companies are too greedy and they're charging you too much. So we'll be in charge of all the grocery stores, just like we're in charge of all the government liquor stores.
Right. Well, socialist regimes implement price controls, and some of them do that by nationalizing industries, including grocery stores, and others do it by hyper-regulation and telling industries that what they can charge. So, yeah, if you have socialist in the name of your party, that would be a natural progression of your politics to nationalize the grocery stores.
Yeah, maybe that's their plan. But
Mm,
yeah, people are, and farmers are struggling. They're making it ever more difficult for people
mhm.
to maintain farmland and to produce and sell what they produce on their farmland. And so the only party that was really speaking to that and not calling the people complaining about these things conspiracy theorists and extremists was the Conservative Party.
Mhm.
So a lot of people, including myself, were like, thank God, because otherwise, there's really no options in terms of who to vote for. And so the Conservatives got, I think, like 900,000 votes. And I think the NDP got also around 900,000 votes. So they're doing recounts in a couple ridings where the vote was so close that it will be determined by like 100 votes
Wow.
to see who will form the government. So it could go either way. And I supposedly will know at the end of the month.
And this is BC, probably the most progressive
Yeah.
province, right? Are they
Yeah.
called provinces?
Yes, that's correct.
So
Yes,
American.
provinces.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's definitely the most progressive
Mhm.
province. I think, a lot of the other provinces would go liberal and the Conservatives would be in the middle usually. Alberta usually goes Conservative, for example.
Mhm.
But we're we're the most progressive. We're very much like California politically, I would
Mhm.
say. And the response from all the Vancouver lefties online was just unbelievable. Like, any excuse to discount that this happened. A
Mhm.
bunch of people were saying, "Oh, well, everyone who voted Conservative is just confused. They don't know who they're voting for." It's like, oh, they're all too stupid. There was
Mhm.
one guy who said this is the author of a book called "Too Dumb for Democracy,"
Oh my
literally.
God.
Yeah. I think he writes for like
Wow.
the Globe and Mail and like Jacobin and stuff like that.
Of
David
course
something or other.
of course he writes for Jack.
Like, you can't acknowledge. And how do you think you're going to win if you can't even acknowledge? It's the exact same thing that happened when Trump won, right?
Mhm.
Like, or, they can't accept or acknowledge that there was any good or rational reason that people voted for Trump. It has to be that everyone in America is racist and misogynist and
Yeah.
hates immigrants and so on and so forth, and is stupid.
Well, and what they really can't acknowledge is how despised they are by a huge chunk of the population because of their behavior, not because of their immutable characteristics, but because of their sanctimonious shaming and language policing and what they did to us during COVID, and their support of the masking of 2-year-olds, and their support of forced experimental GMO tech vaccines, and their destruction of women's sports, and the psychological abuse of being forced to witness Rachel Levine parade around in his fetish gear and be such a freak show that we are all forbidden to comment upon, or we lose our social media accounts and maybe our jobs. They're despised because of their behavior, and when they notice that they're despised, they just claim that it must be because of racism and stupidity and um, whatever insult they want to hurl at the people who don't like them.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and and that's why they're losing. And that's why so many people have turned on them. It's all the same people who called the convoy Nazis and anti-vaxxers and again conspiracy theorists, bigots, etc. It's like you just insulted like hundreds of thousands of people and you think that they're gonna vote for you or like support you. No, we all and they sent and Canadian media is even worse than American media, right? Because it's so small and most of it is state funded in one way or another. The CBC is completely state funded, but a lot of the other media outlets got bailouts from the government because they weren't making any money because nobody pays attention to them anymore. They're irrelevant. And they participated in all this propaganda and all these lies. And again, all these people, all these regular people, these working people, these families, these rural people are watching what the media is saying about them and know that it's not true. And, so the same thing that happened when Trump won, which is that a lot of people, including myself, were shocked or like, what? But everybody hates Trump. And it's like, no, that's just what the media is saying, but it's not true. And it's because you're not reporting the truth, because you've decided that all these people are evil, stupid bigots and they're not worth reporting on. And you think that you can manipulate public opinion by lying. But in reality, these people are continuing to think these things and you're just not accurately representing what's going on in the country.
Right. Wow. Well, how exciting. That'll be exciting if BC goes conservative. I'm really wondering what's going to happen with the election here as well. Really, it feels like Harris is very much losing momentum. Everyone despised Harris. I've told this story before, but the day after the disastrous Biden-Trump debate, when everyone realized Biden was not mentally competent to be the president, even though that got framed as to be running for president. Whenever the Democrats were freaking out about that, I talked to multiple friends who all said, oh, Harris can't be the candidate. She's so unlikable. No one likes her. And all of those people were hypnotized into believing Harris was this shiny, wonderful, incredible candidate. And I think the shine is wearing off. People are starting to understand why they didn't like her to begin with, why she dropped out of the primary in 2020 so early, why she's been hidden away during the Biden administration, and the fact that she's just not, she doesn't seem at all presidential, so the shine's wearing off. The mainstream media is showing more skepticism about her. Saturday Night Live is mocking her. And that's fascinating to me because so many of these people have such severe Trump derangement syndrome that I thought that they wouldn't allow themselves to criticize her. But there's something happening where she's losing momentum and she's losing that Hollywood veneer that was put all over her during the first few weeks of the announcement that she was now the candidate in a completely undemocratic process. It was like so we're not allowed to talk about that either. Why is she the candidate? How did this happen? So I'm really interested in what's going to happen. I'm watching people get less excited about her.
I've never seen her say anything. Like every single interview that she does, she says nothing. She says nothing, 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 nothing. And and it's become so comical to watch. But I mean, she's also screwed up. I mean, the Democrats have screwed up in, I think, thinking that they can coast and that they don't really need to change their approach and that they don't really need to win over new voters because they've got the abortion thing and because they've tarred Trump as this racist lunatic. But that didn't work in 2016, and it seems like they haven't really learned from that. I mean, I think from the sounds of it, it seems like he's doing a bit better than Kamala is. I mean, I don't know what polls you can trust, if you can ever
I
trust the
know.
polls, but this is what I've read in any case. And the fact that, so he's doing Rogan on Friday.
Oh, he's actually doing, wow, that's big.
Yeah, it's huge. And I just listened to JD Vance's interview on Theo Vaughn. I think I listened to it yesterday, and it was so good. And I like JD Vance. I've always kind of liked him, and he comes off as, because he's just being himself, and he's totally being authentic and real, and he's being honest. And the fact that he and Trump are doing this kind of comedian bro podcaster tour is winning them so much favor, and Kamala is still avoiding that. She could have done Rogan too. I mean, she still could do Rogan, and she's not doing it. I mean, we'll see. Maybe they'll change their mind, but they're not, and we know exactly why she's not doing it. Because she can't do that. She can't sit there for 3 hours and be real. Like, that's what you do on Rogan's podcast. Yeah. You go and you have a real, authentic conversation as though it's just the two of you in a room and you're just talking. Like, it's comfortable. It's not your typical media interview. It's not even your typical podcast interview. Right. He sort of lets the conversation flow, and she can't be authentic and she can't be herself, and she doesn't want to do that because she thinks, I think she's probably right that it won't win her any favor, because she doesn't really have anything to offer. I don't think she doesn't seem like an intelligent person. She doesn't seem like she can talk about policy. Like, what would she offer over 2 hours on Rogan?
Right. It's very clear she's not a very intelligent person, just listening to her, and she has terrible policies. She was not a friend to the populations she claims to care about when she was a politician and an attorney general in California. There's so many problems with her. I thought she was framing it as oppression, that she wasn't invited to go on Rogan.
And if she is, she's lying, because she could. Of course he would have her on. Of course he would. He's like, of course he would have her on if she wanted to go on.
So fascinating.
If she tries to frame it in that way, she's a liar, gasp.
Right.
But Trump's the liar.
I know, right?
That's it. Well, I don't want to change the subject too quickly, but the fact, so she's going on Brene Brown, which is the most intolerable. I think maybe I tried to listen to one of her podcasts once, like a few years ago or something, and I was like, what is this garbage? This is the worst. Like, it's so phony and empty, and most people don't even know who Brene Brown is. It's like, this is who you chose. Like, you could do Rogan and you're going on Brene Brown's podcast, obviously, because she wants to do like a phony, she wants to I think they want to control the situation. You can't control Rogan. Right. You're not gonna, you just can't, like, he's not going to agree to anything like that, right? And of course, Brene Brown will. I didn't realize this. I had missed this at the time. But during that time when everyone was trying to bully Rogan off of Spotify because of misinformation, she was one of those people. She felt like she had enough pull because of her podcast on Spotify that she could try to bully them into getting rid of Rogan. So I was really like, screw you. But, just like, can you imagine how boring that Brene Brown and Kamala Harris? Like, interesting. Like,
for, insipid, soulless people who like to believe they're sophisticated, it's going to be great. But Harris already has that vote down.
Yes.
So she's not going to gain any votes from that. And what you just said about Brene Brown and the other forces that tried to get Rogan kicked off Spotify, just for allowing alternate voices on the COVID narrative, right? Just for having conversations about the fact that the official narrative didn't add up, and allowing COVID questioners on there, they wanted to censor him. That gets at the whole issue of why I'm terrified of Harris, and how Harris wants to shut down Elon Musk's Twitter, unquote. Like, she wants to kick Rogan off of Spotify. She wants to censor speech. And this phrase, misinformation and disinformation, that has to be controlled by the government. She wants a Soviet-style official government narrative that cannot be challenged, like we were talking about is happening in Cuba, where you can't say there's no food in the grocery store because the government says there is food in the grocery store, and there's a bottle of ketchup every 3 feet on every shelf. So there's food in the grocery store, and now you're going to jail because you're spreading disinformation. That's what I don't want to happen here. And that is why I'm really hoping she does not win.
Yeah, exactly. And that is what will happen. Like you said, she wants to, and they will. I think that if they win, they will, well, they'll do everything in their power in any case to shut down Twitter. And it's just so strange to me because, I mean, I'm not saying that Trump doesn't lie. I'm sure he lies about things all the time. Mm-hmm. He's like braggadocious. He certainly exaggerates. He's very hyperbolic. But what people say in defense of Kamala and to say, like, how could you vote for Trump? One of the things that they most often say, I think, is that he lies. Somebody said this to me in my real life recently, like a friend of mine. We weren't having like a angry fight or anything. I think she was just surprised when I said that I was voting for Trump. She was like, but he lies. He lies all the time. And I was like, well, I mean, politicians lie. The other side lies. Right. I mean, they took stories off of the internet that would hurt their political campaign. Then they censored people who were actually telling the truth while they were lying about, pandemic stuff. I'm always trying to figure out what words I'm allowed to use that won't get me dinged on YouTube. I don't know. But like they lied about the jab. They outright lied over and over. They lied about the lockdowns. They lied about the masks. They lied about the jab. They lied about the danger of this virus. They lied about numbers. And used those lies to censor people who were trying. I mean, maybe they were censoring some people who were not sharing truthful information, but they censored a lot of people who were really just sharing actual facts about what was going on.
Okay. Anyone who thinks the majority of politicians are telling the truth is hopelessly naive. All politicians lie. It's just a known fact. I mean, it's not just a cliche. It's based in truth. Everything they accuse Trump of doing, they also do, or they're doing it more than he is. And I know people say, well, his character is so terrible, but Bill Clinton's character is terrible. JFK's character was terrible. Like men in power often abuse power. That's been recognized for millennia as well. This current administration has no moral high ground. We have, elected Democrat representatives making porn videos on the floor of Congress. That has happened. Bags of cocaine are being found in the White House. This
Fun.
is not a moral administration, and the Democrats have no moral high ground right now. We don't have a moral choice here.
I mean, didn't the Obamas party with Diddy?
Yes. Usher was promoting Harris at a rally over the last week. And didn't we just see videos of Usher basically trafficking Justin Bieber? This is like Usher and Diddy were pals in that whole freak off situation. And he's campaigning for Harris. No, there's no, it's just a non-argument to say, oh, Trump is a liar and a womanizer and this and that. They all are.
Yeah,
It's
I know.
both
I
parties are
just feel like
full
it
of
kind of
that.
doesn't matter. Like it's so, I mean, of course, one of the things that I wanted to talk about this week was that article by Suzanne Moore, because
Yeah.
I mean, and first of all, I want to say the article is very well written. She's a really good writer. And also that, writers don't usually write their own headlines. But the headline and so what was tweeted out by Suzanne Moore and by Julie Bindel and others is that I'm no Kamala fan, but if you back Trump over her, your moral compass is broken. And I was like, what? Like, this is, first of all, a ridiculous thing to say, because you cannot say that half of all voters in America have no moral compass. And you must know full well that there are plenty of people who do have a moral compass who are voting for Trump. And if you don't, I mean, Lord, like it's hard for me to believe that someone would be that out of touch, though I guess I should start believing it, because clearly there are lots of people who are that out of touch.
They're so literally deranged by their hatred of Trump that they can't see the situation clearly. Again, I'm not going to defend this man's moral character.
No.
I am going to vote for the immoral person who is not overtly saying they want to get rid of the First and Second Amendments. That's what it comes down to me. I'm going to vote for the person of poor moral character who is not going to force me to take experimental GMO shots. I'm going to vote for the person of poor moral character who has already shown himself to fight for women's sex-based rights in terms of sports and Title IX and housing and prisons. He, in his first administration, reversed many Obama policies that were placing men in women's spaces and telling schools they had to allow males in female locker rooms and on female sports teams. He has a proven track record of fighting the trans insanity. That's not just a campaign policy. It's something he's already done. Versus the party that's actively destroying all of women's sex-based rights. Yeah, it's not to me about the moral character of the person. It's, what's the platform here? I'm voting for the candidate that's being backed by RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Taibbi. I'm not gonna vote for the party of Usher and Diddy and getting rid of the First Amendment and getting rid of the Second Amendment and silencing people who criticize the government, and on and on and on. It's so terrifying, the destruction of civil rights that the Democrats are excited to implement should terrify everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you have to make your decision based on policy and who you think will be better for the country, because otherwise, I mean, if you're going to make decisions based on who's more moral and ethical, then you may as well not vote, which I guess could be construed as a cynical thing to say. But like you say, I mean, it's not like Bill Clinton or JFK or like, I wouldn't put anything past any of these people, really.
No, there was it Grover Cleveland?
I mean, Bill Clinton was on Epstein's plane all the time, wasn't he?
All the time. The guy is obviously a sex perp. And so many women have come forward. And the fact that it's just very bad behavior for the president to be engaging in a sexual relationship with a 21-year-old intern. Like, it's just gross and maybe not criminal, maybe not impeachment worthy, but
and they destroyed her.
Yeah, they destroyed her, and he's a billionaire now.
Yeah, they ruined her life.
Right.
Because she did something kind of stupid and silly when she was young that, frankly, many of us may have done.
Right.
You know, like I remember
I
thinking
know.
Bill Clinton was hot when he was president, and I was very young. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
he's playing the saxophone. Like, and it wasn't like I was into old guys. Like, I've never particularly been into older guys. You know, it's a man with power who was like charming and attractive.
Yeah, lots of women are into that. And, you know, he had that kind of charisma that women are into, charismatic, powerful men are attracted to. And to me, I just see charismatic, powerful men as likely sex perps. Like that's just always, and I'm almost always right. So it's just part of the picture. So it's unsurprising that happened. Yeah, I just don't understand. So what were her arguments of what makes it an immoral act to vote for Trump, according to Suzanne Moore?
Well, they always say that he's a rapist, essentially, you know, that he's guilty of sexual assault. I don't know anything about the case that they're referring to, so I can't speak to it. I don't know what happened.
He was found liable in civil court, but he has not been found guilty in a criminal court of rape. But a woman who says that she was sexually assaulted by him has won monetary damages in civil courts. So he has not been convicted of sexual assault.
Okay. Yeah, that was sort of, I was always confused because a lot of people would respond, like a lot of people respond to me and say he's a convicted rapist, and then I try to figure out if that's true, and I can, and somebody else says to me, no, he's not a convicted rapist, and it's like, okay.
No, he lost a civil suit, and the jury in that civil suit said that he had caused harm to this woman. They believe that he had assaulted her, but it's not a criminal court. And people can say, you know, the same thing happened with O.J. Simpson, who I do believe was a murderer, that he was exonerated in criminal court. He was never convicted of murder, but he lost a civil case from, what was her name? Nicole Brown Simpson's family sued him, and the civil jury believed that he had killed her, and they awarded the family a lot of money. But he was not a convicted murderer, and Trump is not a convicted rapist. Okay, so
there's that. But so she says, I'll read you a few excerpts from her article, Suzanne Moore's article, that I found interesting. Trump is part of a wave of populist power brokers who see all problems as being caused by immigration, dangerous foreigners flooding the country, and liberal ideas destroying the family. They are unafraid to play to the delusions of the left behind, who turn out mostly to be men who no longer feel everything is going their way. You know, this is such an outdated argument. This is how I thought in 2015, 2016, was that he was a misogynist and that only other misogynists could possibly like Trump. I mean, I don't know how she can discount all the women who are supporting and voting for Trump. But, you know, it's not to brush off those concerns around immigration and liberal ideas destroying the family is, I think, really unfair. And I'm not anti-immigration. I think that immigration is good generally. But, you know, there is a big problem with illegal immigrants coming into the U.S. and Venezuelan gangs who are trafficking girls and women and boys, actually, and really contributing to this drug crisis and the fentanyl problem and the crime problem as well. And, you know, and I think that it's not unreasonable for working class people also to feel concerned about their jobs being taken away and given to people who they can pay lower wages to.
Right. Cesar Chavez, who founded the Farm Workers Union, was opposed to illegal immigration because it drove down the wages of the farm workers who were American citizens. Like, this is not, you can't paint this as a right-wing issue. it's not racist or right-wing or in any way morally questionable to want a secure border for your country.
Yeah, like it's not just about racism. So I think that's the
No.
implication here, is that people are like, no, like I want to protect my stuff and I want everything to be like me. And she does go on to sort of allude to that. I Let me see if I can find this quote here. You know, she says, she goes on to say, the game is playing out everywhere from Italy to Hungary to Austria, Sweden, and the UK. Despite its macho swagger, an incredibly emotional discourse. And then she offers this quote, and I haven't been able to figure out whose quote this is. But the quote is, like, she doesn't say, as so-and-so said. It's just a quote there in the article. So I don't know if anybody knows whose quote it is. Let me know. All that you have lost, all that you feel should be yours, will be restored. All those who have taken your natural inheritance, women, immigrants, Black people, gays, will be put back in their natural place. So she's obviously implying that this is what Trump is offering people, and that the kind of people who are drawn to and wanting to vote for Trump like this idea, which again is crazy because there's lots of women who are voting for Trump, and there's actually quite a few Black people who are voting for Trump. And Trump's not anti-gay or anti-Black or anti-woman for that matter. You know, he's probably a crude misogynist in some kind of ways. I don't know. Again, I don't know him personally. But like, he's not. She's behaving as though he's trying to turn this into like a white man's world, and everyone else is going to be somehow systematically oppressed if he wins the election, which is just, I mean, that's not been the case in America for a long time, and that wasn't the case in America when Trump was president. So I don't know why people keep clinging to this fantasy.
When I read that quote, I looked it up. My understanding is it seems like that is a quote she made up as an example of how these people are thinking, according to her. It looks like she wrote that and put it in quotes as though this is something the deplorables would say. That's, I mean, because she's not attributing it to anyone. It's like, here's how these horrible people are thinking, and then puts this, you know, string of sentences in quotes about how they're upset that their privilege has been taken away and they don't like foreigners.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody knows that most of us were immigrants at some point. I mean, the amount of Irish immigrants that came over to America and fought their way up from literally nothing. You know, the Irish immigrants who came over to America were severely oppressed and broke, and, you know, worked their way up to success. And yeah, maybe they are pissed to see that taken away from them, or to see these jobs handed over to immigrants who are not, you know, working their way up in the same way that they had to. I don't know.
But when the Irish came over, there was a system of immigration, and, you know, you had to go through Ellis Island, and there was a pro-immigration policy. And I guess you could say the same now, like these people are supposedly asylum seekers, but people are pouring over the border. And many of these people aren't here as asylum seekers. They're criminals who are trafficking people and trafficking drugs and creating instability in our country. It's not racist to want a secure border and to want clarity around our immigration policy.
Yeah, and I think they're also being handed a lot of money and services when they get here as well.
Right.
So it's, yeah, I mean, so there's that. And she says that this appeals as much to the ultra rich tech bros, which I also find weird because I feel like all the ultra rich tech bros, except for Elon Musk, are Democrat supporters. like, who is she talking about? Like Bill Gates, like, you know, the guys in like, how is San Francisco, or how is California a blue state? How is San Francisco such a progressive city if all of the ultra rich tech bros are fans of Trump? That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
Like, who, like, I mean, it's like Facebook went along with the Democrats, and Twitter used to go along with the Democrats, and, you know, Meta, Instagram and Facebook, same thing. YouTube, like all of the social media platforms, and I feel like most of big tech were in bed with the Democrats. Like, what is she, like, she's only talking about Elon Musk, I think, there, which is crazy.
I think that Mark Zuckerberg was trying to back out a little bit. He's now calling himself a libertarian, which is completely laughable, but he's trying to reform his image a little bit after.
But it's not like he's some rabid Trump fan.
No, not at all. Not at all. It's just a shibboleth. It's, you know, the ultra rich tech bros. Well, we all know that's
like, what are you talking? Yeah, like this appeals to the ultra rich tech bros. So she says this appeals as much to the ultra rich tech bros as to the poor rural folk devastated by deindustrialization and the opioid crisis. The outskirts of many major American cities are now encampments, favelas, slums of lost and desperate people. And then she goes on to say, Barack Obama's recent exasperation at Trump's accusation that money to rebuild after the hurricanes was instead being channeled to immigrants, this is false, was yet another calling out of his lies. So here she's talking about how Trump is a liar. He lies all the time. Obama also zeroed in on the gendered nature of this election. I wish that people would stop making this a gendered election, because I don't actually think it is a gendered election, but you keep claiming that Kamala is like the women's women and Trump is the man's man. And I'm like, fuck you. That just means that women are stupid then, as far as I can tell. What you're saying is women are stupid if they're falling for Kamala's shtick. But so she's like,
just like 8 weeks ago, it was Biden versus Trump. And
right.
We weren't allowed to have a primary, and they just put this woman in there, and now it's a gendered election. It's just, you know, all right. Okay.
So Obama also zeroed in on the gendered nature of this election, telling male voters that bullying is not what real strength is. Real strength is about helping people who need it and standing up for those who can't always stand up for themselves. That was an Obama quote, I believe. I mean, but, you know, yeah, again, it's so interesting and it's so out of touch, because I think that's exactly how so many Trump voters feel, and so how so many Canadians feel in Trudeau's world and in NDP land. They feel bullied and, you know, silenced and censored, and you know, that's true. I mean, we've all been labeled as terrorists in Canada, and as practically as criminals, and as Nazis, and as again as racists and misogynists, and we are banned from the internet, and we're banned from public discourse, and we literally are banned from speaking about the issues that we're concerned with as women in Canada and BC, and threatened with BC human rights tribunals if we dare speak against government policy on the internet.
Also, I know many people who are very, you know, they're afraid to put a Trump sign in their yard. They're afraid to let the people around them know that they're planning to vote for Trump, because they're terrified of the social and economic backlash that could come at them for that. People will vandalize their businesses and stop supporting their businesses and possibly harm them, and definitely take the signs down. I don't see the Trump factions bullying to the same degree that I see the Democrats bullying, but they don't believe they're bullying. They think they're doing God's work, right? They don't view themselves as bullies. And granted, I live in a Democratic stronghold, so maybe the dynamic is different in Trump country, where people might be afraid to put a Biden sign up, but it's not what I'm seeing here at all. Most of the people I know, I got texts from multiple female friends today telling me that they had just voted straight Republican, but they can't tell anybody except me. They want me to know they just voted for Trump, but they have to keep it secret.
Yeah, I mean, if I was still living in Vancouver, I don't know if I would have any friends left. You know what I mean?
Right?
I'd probably have some. I mean, obviously, I still have friends in Vancouver, and they know what my politics are. But that would be that would be a story that everybody would tell each other. Oh, like so and so, I guess, is a Trump fan. Like, can you believe it? I don't know if I can hang out with them anymore. They're clearly off their rocker, that kind of thing, right?
Right.
So she goes on to say, such a sentiment will not sway those inclined to vote for Trump because he advertises his ability to violate not only women, but all codes and norms of what looks like an increasingly analog notion of political persuasion. Like his friend Putin, he operates essentially as a mob leader, depending on ever more bizarre conspiracy theories, weird paranoia, and an understanding that his job is not to make things better, but to entertain his supporters. America is not what it was, but nor is Trump, who is now just a bitter old man whose speeches are word salads of arrogance and self-pity. I mean, word salad. Like, how you're a Kamala supporter and you're concerned about word salads? Like, everything that comes out of her mouth is a word salad.
Totally. I don't particularly enjoy listening to either of them speak, and I don't really understand.
No, me neither.
How people are so excited to go to those 3-hour Trump rallies. It's not my thing. I'm voting against the insanity of the Democrats, and it's amazing that Suzanne Moore can't see any of that. Like, she doesn't have even an inkling of understanding of that piece of it.
I just want to read a little bit more.
Yeah.
This may well appeal because if the world is against you and everything is controlled in the shadows, she's mocking people at this point. If the world is against you and everything is controlled in the shadows and truth is but the last YouTube video you watched, who will save you but a strong man? Like, it's insulting.
It's completely insulting. Yeah.
I mean, and as if like I've been swayed by, I barely watch YouTube videos, but like that's certainly not the thing that swayed me. And and the reality is that a lot is controlled in the shadows. Like, you act like she's behaving as though like you're a crazy conspiracy theorist for understanding that there is a deep state and that, decisions about, including, again, what happened during the pandemic, that was all planned by these superpower people. That's not a conspiracy theory. Like, the WEF did plan out the response and execute it. I mean, they wrote a book about it called The Great Reset.
Exactly. COVID-19 and the Great Reset. And yeah.
I'm like, who's making all these decisions? Like, who decided to pull the Hunter Biden story from Twitter?
Exactly.
And, who decided to censor all these people on old Twitter? Who decided to, pull Naomi Wolf off of the internet? And all of these other, doctors and scientists who were reporting inconvenient facts. This
is older, but who put not one but two bullets in the back of journalist Gary Webb's head and called it a suicide, got the state to call it a suicide after he had revealed that the CIA brought cocaine and crack cocaine into the United States as part of the Iran-Contra deal to fund a covert war in another country. Like this has been going on for a really long time. Yes, there are dark forces in the shadows who will kill you if you get too mouthy about exposing the narrative, exposing the truth of what's happening.
I mean, yeah, why is Tulsi on a terrorist watch list?
Right. Exactly.
Like, who's making these decisions? I guess, I mean, I don't know that call it in the shadows or not in the shadows, but it is, you know, the deep state, or I guess, I don't know, maybe they don't like the term the deep state. But I mean, what's the criticism then? Like, you're complaining that people think that like the CIA is pulling the strings here because they are, or that the WEF is pulling the strings, or big tech or whatever, and that, you know, all of these politicians are in bed with big pharma.
Right. I know it's so lacking in power analysis, and I didn't hear anything in that article about policy. I didn't hear anything of substance. Yeah, it's just, we hate Trump and we hate you if you're going to vote for him. And yeah, Harris is terrible, but you have to vote for him because Trump is a bad man that we don't like.
Yeah. I mean, I think the main thing that she went with was the lies thing. And so she concludes, cynicism has replaced censorship. Lies are priced in. Earlier on, I didn't read this part, but earlier on in the article, she talks about how Trump's lies are just priced in. So she says, you know, as she's saying essentially that we're all like, okay, yeah, fine, he lies. We get it. We know that about Trump. We're voting for him anyway, which I guess is kind of true. But I mean, again, that's true of all politicians.
Every single politician lies. It's just a known fact. They all lie. They never fulfill most of their campaign promises. They all kowtow to the moneyed interests that get them elected. This is a multi-billion-dollar game. Like when Harris is bragging that her campaign has raised over $1 billion, that's who owns Harris. You know, that's who she will be allegiant to if she gets into office. And Trump's the same way. And I do think it's somewhat foolish for people to believe he's going to fulfill his campaign promises. I just personally believe he's not going to destroy civil rights to the same extent. And I think that he is a better candidate on women's sex-based rights.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, so her lead-in was around this photo op that Trump did at McDonald's, which she says was essentially to troll Kamala, which it was, and it was great. Yeah. It was a great troll. It was a great move on his part. I mean, totally. But she's calling it a lie because she's like, oh, well, you know, he never really worked at McDonald's. He grew up rich and he just inherited a bunch of money. And then she goes on to say, you know, but why worry about another Trump lie? It's what he does. Everyone knows this. A phrase that has become common, and one that I particularly hate, is the one used to convey that certain politicians' flaws are priced into their appeal. But I mean, it wasn't a lie. It was a photo op, and it was a very successful photo op, and you know, people loved it because again, it makes them seem relatable.
Exactly. Yeah. They all do crazy photo ops. They're not really volunteering at the soup kitchen when they pretend to do that. That's not actually happening. It's all completely orchestrated. There are Secret Service agents everywhere. Only well-vetted actors can come in and get in line for the soup kitchen, photo op. They all do this. This is just called politics.
Yeah, I mean, but also, like, what did they think? That they thought that he was actually going and working at McDonald's for the day, and that, you know, I can't believe he lied about that. Like,
I can't believe he lied that he worked at McDonald's.
And it was kind of cute. Like, he was learning how to work the fryer, and you know, he handed somebody their Happy Meal or whatever. I mean, it was a good move. And, Kamala should be doing things like that if she wants to win favor.
I know.
Like,
Right.
surely they know what they're doing by going on, Theo Vaughn's podcast and Andrew Schultz's podcast and Joe
Right.
Rogan's podcast. This is, again, they really lost touch with the American people, because this is what people are listening to. This is what, everybody listens to Rogan. I mean, maybe not liberal women, but, everybody who listens to Rogan is not a Trump fan.
No.
There's lots of Democrats who listen to Rogan. There's lots of athletes who, like, a lot of people just listen to Rogan because they like the comedians. And a lot of people listen to Rogan because they want to listen to, like, the UFC recaps and his conversations with these MMA guys. And then a lot of people like me, I primarily listen to the, like, nature or universe or science or political, or, just somebody who I think is interesting to hear from. I listen to the comedian podcast sometimes, but he has the biggest audience in all of America, and you're doing interviews with, you're doing interview blips in these controlled mainstream media scenarios, and you're not catching on to the fact that this is not what people care about anymore, and people don't buy it. That people are desperately seeking authenticity because they've been inundated with fakery and lies for so long, and they know that mainstream media is bullshit, and they know that politicians are lying to them.
Right. Yeah, it's a weird time. I was very disappointed in Julie Bindel retweeting that, and
I mean, they're friends, so I saw that and kind of just reacted. I mean, I didn't say anything rude. I like Julie Bindel. I'm always going to like Julie Bindel, like, as a friend. But I responded and said that's unfair, because I also, I saw Suzanne Moore's tweet and I thought about saying something, and then I didn't, because I'm like, I don't know her. I don't want to start an internet fight with her. I know Julie knows what I think. She knows what my beliefs are. We've had these conversations many times before, so I don't think she's going to be insulted or upset if I say something like that to her.
Julie has been the target of so much defamation. She has been the target of so much guilt by association, right? Where, oh, you are affiliated with Julie, so now we can't be affiliated with you. Like, she has been silenced and censored, and her life has been threatened, and that she can't see the First Amendment and free speech aspect going on in the U.S. election is shocking to me. And it might be that she's not an American, that I'm not sure people in other countries quite understand what we have here in the United States in terms of the Bill of Rights and the First Amendment. And again, I know I said it in a previous episode, but how radical it is that our fundamental documents that are the foundation of our government say our rights are divinely given to us, and the government can't interfere with that. The government doesn't give us our rights here. It is recognized in our foundational documents. We are born with those rights, and the government can't infringe upon them. And that is what is at stake here, is our fundamental rights to speak, to think freely, to assemble with others, to criticize the government, to have freedom of the press. If we lose this in the United States, the entire world is going down. Like, the United States is the place where this freedom is most recognized and most easily exercised.
Yeah, I think that's what a lot of people are failing to realize also, is that if the US goes down, then the entire Western world is in big trouble, and that it's imperative that America does remain the most powerful country in the world, because the alternatives are very dangerous. The alternative, I think, is probably China, right? I mean, China,
Russia, where journalists are murdered on the regular, or what's happening in Brazil with Twitter. The whole world is falling into totalitarianism right now. And it is shocking and heartbreaking for me to watch liberals and progressives celebrate it and be on the side of totalitarianism. Yes, Iran as well. Like so many countries are suffering under totalitarian regimes right now. And if the US goes down, it is not boding well for humanity.
Yeah. And it's just, I feel like there's a lot of projection going on, because I think that people like to accuse Trump voters just like they like to accuse conservative voters of voting emotionally. But I think that really people who are supporting Kamala, I think in a lot of ways, are voting emotionally, because I mean, what is she offering policy-wise beyond abortion that is so appealing to these voters? I mean, she certainly won't tell us. There was that famous, I think, was she being interviewed by Colbert, and he asked her what's different between, her and Biden. And she goes, well, I'm not Biden. I'm not Joe Biden. And I'm not Donald Trump.
Yeah. And everyone cheered at that. Like, yay, she said something.
It's
so
emotional.
brilliant.
It's because they hate Donald Trump so much. They hate him. And, I guess she appeals to them in sort of an Oprah-like way. I mean, I don't find her appealing at all. So I can only think that it's mostly about Trump derangement syndrome. So if you want to talk about voting emotionally, then talk about that.
I know people who, I guess this is voting emotionally, people who were in tears at their excitement that a woman of color was the vice president.
Emotional.
Yeah, very emotional, because she was not popular when she tried to run for president. She doesn't have her own base. Like she's a manufactured phenomenon who's been packaged and given to us. There's no charisma. There is no grassroots support there. She had to drop out after the first round of the 2020 primaries because she had no support. So it is all just emotion and about identity politics. There was another recent interview where someone was asking her about her support for government-funded gender surgeries for convicted criminals in prison. Right. And they asked if she was going to continue that. And she said that
another conspiracy theory.
I know, right. I know, even though that we have video footage of her saying it, that she supports that even for undocumented prisoners. Our taxpayers are going to pay for breast implants and brow reduction, and the guy in Indiana, where it says in the demands he has that a uterus transplant when available, that's where our taxpayers our tax dollars are going. She just kept saying, I will follow the law. I will follow the law. She wouldn't answer it. And then it was just more, but Trump, and Trump this and Trump that and Trump that. And they let her just continue talking and completely evade the question.
And then she says things like, oh, well, I think you know what I'm talking about. I think we all know what I'm talking about. And then doesn't say anything. It's crazy.
Right. It's really crazy.
Like, you would have to be under some kind of, I don't know, like hypnotized in some way to watch that kind of response and be like, yeah, this is my candidate. She's speaking to all the issues I care about, and she's not lying. And, because there's no substance there.
No, there's no substance. It will be very difficult if she wins to have to listen to her for 4 years. I also think it will be devastating for the United States because she clearly has no diplomatic skills. She has no experience. She has no natural political savvy. She will be a terrible leader of the United States. And we are already crumbling in so many ways. It's pretty clear we have no leadership right now. It's just so disheartening that Biden is still the president and that Harris is the candidate. She's the equivalent of Dan Quayle. Like if he had ended up being the president too. I don't know if you remember that, but that was George Bush Sr.'s vice president, who was people said he was impeachment protection for George Bush, that he was just so idiotic and so unpresidential that there's no way they could get rid of George Bush because everyone knew Dan Quayle couldn't actually be the president. It will be incredibly disheartening if she wins, and dangerous.
Yeah, really dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's all very emotional for all of these people who are accusing us of not having a moral compass, because I don't know that it really is about morals, or really should be about morals. I mean, it depends on how you define morals, I suppose. I guess I would argue that censorship is immoral, and, getting rid of people's free speech rights is immoral, and letting, criminals and gang members into the country to traffic girls is immoral.
Castrating children is immoral.
It's immoral, yeah.
Pediatric mastectomies are immoral.
Housing men in women's prisons is immoral, and letting these boys compete against and win against girls in sport, I think that's immoral.
Absolutely.
Anyway, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about here? I'm going to be gone next week. I should let everyone know. I'm going to Hereticon in Miami. I'm pretty excited.
I'm jealous. Yeah. Maybe
someday
I'll get an invite.
Yeah, it's very it's all invite only.
Yeah.
I'm very pleased to have been invited twice to both of their events. I didn't get to do a debate last time. I think the last one was 2 years ago. And I think I was originally supposed to debate Ayala, actually, about pornography or sex work or something like that. But they switched the formats up, so they didn't do debates anymore. And Ayala just got to talk about how great it was to be an autistic sex worker. But this time I'm doing a debate. I think I talked to you about this before, about pornography. So hopefully that'll be, I was going to say fun, but it might not be fun. It'll probably be more heated than anything else. But it was an amazing event last year, and I'm excited. And I only know a few people who are going, but thank God, because it's scary going to these things when you don't have a friend there. And they're having a black tie ball, and I was just like,
oh my God,
what? I was like, I've been so stressed out.
Right.
Because I was like, I don't go to, I do not have clothing like that. Most of the clothing that I wear are dirty Converse and dirty cutoff shorts. And
what are you gonna do?
Well, so I was talking to, Mia Hughes is going, thank God. So we've been equally as stressed about this, which I'm really relieved about. And she talked to Heather Hang, who is also going. So I'm excited about that, because I've never met Heather in person. Heather and Brett will be there. And Heather said she was, going full black tie. There's a real dress code. You have to go black tie. And I had to oh my gosh, look up what that means, because I was like, I've never been to anything in my life that's my idea of dress up is more edgy than anything else.
Yeah.
I'll wear a black leather skirt and a bodysuit. That's about as dressy as I'll go. And I kind of hate wearing high heels at this point in my life. I'm okay to wear high-heeled boots, but actual high heels, I'm like, oh, this is just painful and stressful. Anyway, Heather, I think is I think there's sites where you can rent expensive designer clothing. So I think that's where I'm going. I was like, I don't want to spend a bunch of money on something that I'm going to wear literally one time and never again. And I can't shop from Mexico, so it's not like I can go to a store and try something on, or even order something online and return it if it doesn't fit. So I've just, thrown literally a bunch of money into the garbage. It's hard. It's hard shopping from Mexico. There's no post office here. There's no, UPS here. I can't return things if I buy them. So I think that's what my solution is, which, you know, maybe outs me and some other women as pores, but, you know, like the alternative of spending, you know, I don't know, $1,000 on some ball gown.
Oh my God. Now I don't want to go anymore. I'm glad I'm not invited. It sounds
now
so
that I
stressful.
sort of have like, I'm a little bit prepared, I feel less stressed about it. You know, I have to hope that the thing fits and that my shoes don't hurt too bad. I also was like, I don't have like black high heels. Like I just don't have this kind of stuff, because where would I wear it? Like Sayulita is all dusty dirt, or in the summer muddy roads, or it's cobblestones. You cannot wear. You would be a fucking idiot to wear heels out. And you know, the tour, it's like an entertainment thing that we do, where we sit in the bar in the plaza and we watch the tourist girls who are at bachelorette parties fall over and over and over again because they decided to wear heels out, not realizing that all of Sayulita is cobblestone streets. Like it's just yeah. And you know, I do fly places for work things, but they're not black tie balls. So
I'm just having this image of AOC in that gown that said, "Would eat the rich or tax the rich," on it.
While somebody's carrying her veil or whatever, not her veil, but
and her face is
her masked staff carrying her dress around for
her masked servants while her face is bare. And but yeah, you're going to be surrounded by all these wealthy people, and it'll be fun. But now I'm so glad I'm not invited, because that would stress me out so badly to think about that.
It was stressful. Yeah, me and Mia have been emailing about it for several weeks now.
I'll have such a good time. So
we won't be live streaming next week, because I think my debate is actually on Wednesday evening. So $35,000 a plate. No, nothing. I'm not paying for any of this. If I were paying for this event or my flights or the hotel, I would not be going.
I think Michelle means the Met Gala.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Got it. Sorry, Michelle. I totally misunderstood that. I was like, oh no. You've misunderstood how I operate. But yeah, anyway, I'll be in Miami next week, and on my way back, I'm going to Vancouver to retrieve my little Emma that everyone has been asking about. Little Emma has been with her. Well, her and her father love each other very much, and he was quite upset when I left for Mexico with Emma, and because he would see her pretty regularly, and if I went away for conferences, he would always take her. And so, you know, when I was back in BC, I left her with him for a little bit, and then I couldn't fly back with 2 dogs in the cabin, so I brought Adelita back and left her with her father. I'm trying to not say his name out loud, because I don't have anyone to leave Adelita with, and I just, you know, figured that they would be happy, and he's always happy to have her. So she's very happy there. They love each other very much. So I'm sure she's been fine, but obviously we've missed her here, and we'll be glad to have her back. And I'm never traveling with the dogs ever again, because this has been a huge, expensive pain in the ass. But anyway, I'll be back in Mexico next Friday in time for Day of the Dead, which I was like, I'm not missing Day of the Dead here, the greatest day of the year in Mexico.
Right. Well, have a great time, and
thank you.
Yeah, make some rich friends.
I'll do my best. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Mary Lou, as always. You can find Mary Lou's website at enchantedfamilymedicine.com, and you can find Mary Lou on Substack at Mary Lou Singleton. And I believe Mary Lou is on Twitter at Singleton_ML. I think I've remembered that for the first time ever. Is that right?
Yeah, I think that's correct. I think so. I don't even have it memorized.
Not very
active.
I'm overactive at Meghan E. Murphy. And then please subscribe to my Substack. if you like and support my work. I'm at www.meghanmurphy.ca. I think for some reason you have to actually put in the www. Like everybody thinks I'm like a retard boomer when I say that, but if you just put in meghanmurphy.ca, I feel like it doesn't actually connect to my Substack. That's the URL that I've attached my Substack to. Anyway, paid subscribers I really appreciate. This is how I survive. And you can also catch the audio of most of our live streams up at my Substack and on Spotify. I don't always get to every single one because sometimes I don't have time, but I do try to get to most of them. And I really don't do very much. I do minimal editing on them. So it's just our audio and our meandering chit chat, just to warn you. I feel like there's other things I was supposed to say. Oh, if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Thank you, Richard. I appreciate that. And you can get your own gay and retarded. The whole time it just looks like it says gay and retard because the mic was blocking out the ed, but it actually says gay and retarded. And you can get these shirts and more at fourthwall.com. If you just go to meghanmurphy.ca and click the shop tab, you'll be able to link through to my shop at Fourth Wall. And we're normally here every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern, except for next Wednesday because I'll be gone in Miami. Anyway, this is fun. I had a nice time, and I hope that you did too.
Thanks, Megan. Have a great time.
Bye, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.